Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Mental Toughness and Body Show. Today, I am joined by Veronica Deraleau, financial coach, author of Making Money is Simple, and a US Army veteran as well. Now, what's impressive here is Veronica paid off over $100,000 in debt in just 3 years, which you might think, oh, well, that's not much, but just break down the numbers and see how you would do that for yourself. And she did it on a median salary, and just by changing her standards, her discipline, and I guess her identity as well. And so I thought this would be a great opportunity to talk about money today because we all need it and most people want more of it. And we can talk mental toughness and what actually creates lasting change. So, Veronica, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Rob. Appreciate it.
So, maybe a good place to start here. So, you're a financial coach. Before your finances change, what identity or standard do you think you needed to change in order to be able to achieve where you are now and that, at that particular time in your life, what it is that you needed to change?
Yeah, so I grew up with a single mother from a third world country, and I had all of these baked in thoughts about money growing up. And I always felt being first generation American and seeing like a variety of socioeconomic backgrounds all in one city where I grew up. I always felt like very acutely different from other people. And I think that comparison is the thief of joy. And you can get in that trap of comparing yourself to others. And it didn't turn around for me until I got out of business school and I graduated with my MBA with that six figures of debt. And I started working for this commercial real estate company and seeing how high net worth individuals think about money and how they manage their money. And one of the first things I learned was that with money to them, like nothing is, when they were putting their business plans together, nothing was impossible. Nothing was like outside of the realm of possibility. Everything was fair game. And that was like a totally new attitude, the abundance mindset, and like not thinking that like anything is not available to you or not for you, but just like how do you get there or who can you tap to get there? So that was like a whole abundance mindset that was sort of unlocked for me at that stage in my life, and also just understanding how they budgeted materially different than what I thought I was doing when I was budgeting. I had an Excel spreadsheet and I was putting my income and my expenses, and I wasn't falling below zero. So therefore, I thought I was budgeting. Then when I go to this commercial real estate firm, I see, oh, wow, they're projecting like 10, 20 years out and they're forecasting outcomes and then they're reverse engineering what needs to happen. So it was strategic budgeting. It was a whole other way of thinking, just be not just literally paycheck to paycheck, not budgeting period to period, but seeing like what is the end goal that I'm trying to achieve, and then like what are the levers that I can pull to get there. So it was just like these different mindset shifts that I was like, oh my gosh, I never learned this even in my, all of my schooling.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? You got to surround yourself with those right people and learn from them. I came from my family had a poor money mindset, and but I had an appetite to create my own financial freedom. So I sought out the right people to help me and just stayed hungry in that space to continue to learn and still doing it. When it comes to like saving and spending, they're all financial habits. So certainly on the, well, it could be both, but what do you think is a financial habit that people really emotionally defend and, just refuse to change?
I think like not wanting to budget and thinking that budgeting is about restriction, when budgeting is really about seeing and facing reality and seeing what are the resources that are available to me and how can I siphon them off to the highest and best use that's like aligned with where I want to go. So it's really about like using your money to the maximum and not about restriction.
Yeah. I hear people talk about I don't know, we'll say like your Netflix or your Uber Eats or things like that. And I say, oh, Yeah, but no, I need that. It's like, really? You
Mm,
really need that? I have people that tell me that they spend over $1,000 on Uber Eats a month, and I'm like, if I do the sums on that, that's a lot. How do you do that? How are you? And people are ordering it multiple times a day. I'm like,
hmm
what? It's like that just doesn't make any sense to me. Oh, I need it because of,
hmm
ABC. So they get quite emotional about that, but then complain about what they don't have.
Right.
And I don't have time to do this, or I don't have money to do that. And
Absolutely. That's one of the things that I talk about in my book is like the first awakening and realization I had in my own life that I can remember as like a paradigm shift in my life with lifestyle creep. And so the story in the book that I refer to is my first sleepover I ever had when I was 13 years old. I was already like a teenager, and it was my first exposure to how other people lived. And I didn't know that my mother had kept some of her third world habits, and we had like uh used basin baths, like we put water in a basin and you like go in the
uh,
tub and you bathe yourself. And um it wasn't until I went to the sleepover that I realized that people like use the shower heads.
yeah,
And
right.
that is my first, I never went back to a basin bath after that. Like it just became the standard. And everybody thinks that way. Once they've hit a certain standard, they're like, well, I can't do this and I won't do that. But what they have to realize is if they're trying to get somewhere, there have to be trade-offs. Like, sure, you can do the $1,000 a month door dashes, but what are you trading for that? Because there's some trade occurring, whether you like it or not, in labor or in savings or what have you,
Yeah, or your health.
or your health.
Yeah.
That's true. Yep.
So what I like about financial success and wealth and wealth creation is it requires consistency, just like any success. You can't just say, "Well, I'll save today, but I'm never going to have to do it again." You have to keep on doing it over and over and over, and it is really a discipline with the right strategy. What came first for you in terms of, and I guess this is where the mental toughness side of it comes in, the military side, that what's required there, and kind of it's kind of double-edged, I suppose. In the military, it's kind of we want to get out your normal thinking, so you think our way, and then in the real world, you're like, well, I need to learn to think again. But how did that help you? And which came first, the discipline through that to then you just transferred it over into the financial side of things?
Yeah, I grew up playing violin. That was like my first entry into having a lot of discipline and also seeing how consistency over many, 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 many years can make you very competent in something. So that was my first. And also, I was a swimmer since I was a young girl. So I did competitive swimming in high school as well. So the physical activity, the musical activity, those take long periods of time, and that's served me for every endeavor in my life. And so I did have that background going into the military already. So that was great. And I could realize what needed to happen, what mental shifts needed to happen to make it through my military service. I would say when I work with clients, one of the first things, like when they're coming to me, they're feeling very resigned and they're feeling they might be feeling hopeless or overwhelmed, like they don't know where to start.
Yeah.
So, one of the first things I do is take a broad view of everything that's going on in their financial life and I paint the picture for them by uh, putting some time-bound goals together. So like based on what I'm seeing, if here's what I would do to hit this goal and here's how quickly I think we can achieve it. Because that's what really turned it around for me. When I saw how that commercial real estate company was putting goals together, and then I was like, oh my gosh, I can apply this to my own life. And I had a goal of paying off the 100K with my starter salary. I had an initial goal of paying off in 5 years, and I paid off in three. It was because I could see, even what others couldn't see, in the things that I didn't I did not like purchase apartment for my furniture. I mean, my furniture for my apartment, and I didn't. We there were all sorts of things that my husband and I sacrificed during this period of time because we could see the end goal very clearly. And
Mm.
that just it keeps you so motivated when you can clearly see the end goal.
It is interesting. I find that like housing where I am here in Melbourne, it's very expensive. We're now one of the most expensive cities in the world to live. Um, but I do find that it's not really something that people really talk about in terms of the strong financial habits. I think the longest mortgage you can have here, don't quote me, but I think it's 32 years now. It used to be 20, and then it was
Mm.
25, and then it was 30, and now there's like an extra, some banks do an extra couple of years. And I think some people are just resigned to the fact that they will retire, still haven't paid off their mortgage, and find some way to do it at the end of retirement using their superannuation here, which is like is that your 401k? Is that what that is? That's
Mm.
the
Mhm.
equivalent in the US, and hope to do it that way. Um, I I don't know how we change that apart from encouraging. I think it's got to start in schools. Like
Mm.
we need to be teaching financial literacy and so forth in schools. When people are adults, I mean, my background is I'm a chartered accountant. I love, wealth creation and so forth as well. So when I do my coaching with people, I'm trying to understand where are their pain points to help them grow in other areas of their life. And sometimes I feel it's the first time they're having these adult conversations about money. And I
Yeah.
look at here we're taxed quite highly as well. Uh, and I think, well, hang on, you've got two incomes coming into the home. You have two tax-free thresholds. You should really be paying off your home within 7 years. And this is a strategy you could use, but they just keep staying where they are in that pattern. So what what are some tips you could give people, do you think, to if they are that, oh well, it's overwhelming. Yeah, what Rob said is right. I don't feel like I'm going to be able to pay my mortgage off for another 30 years or whatever. How do we get people to change their money mindset?
So the first step of my ARIA money model, which is the framework for money mindsets in my book, is awaken. So that's being willing to look at the situation and face it. So when clients come to me or prospects come to me to talk about it, it doesn't even occur to them that it is like, I don't think there's any messaging in society that says that you can pay things off sooner than the mortgage term.
Yeah,
So
well,
some of my clients, that's literally the first time they're like, I've
yeah,
never
that's
even
fine.
heard of paying something off.
Yeah, I thought it was
Like,
just going to take this long. What do you
I
mean?
thought just 30-year mortgage, I thought you just pay it off in 30 years. I'm like,
Yeah,
it's possible that you can pay it off faster than 30 years.
yeah.
So it's like this total unlock. Like it's just not mainstream messaging. Like you said, like it really does, there would need to be a cultural shift or people need to seek out that education themselves through YouTube or through coaching or however it may be, because it really isn't taught in school.
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? It's a global issue. Another interesting thing I find, and this is kind of funny and kind of weird and sickening all at the same time. When I used to work corporately, I used to have these guys that would talk about they'd have these runaway accounts. And I said, "What are you talking about?" And they would have these separate bank accounts that their partners knew nothing about. And they put money in these accounts so that if things went bad in their relationships or their marriages, they had this money that their partner didn't know about that they could run away with. Um, and I just can't believe that you'd be in a relationship like that where you wouldn't be fully open with everything. But um, have you come across that with any clients that you coach? Maybe they don't tell you.
I haven't heard of runaway accounts. That makes me really sad, Rob.
I
But
know. It's more
yeah,
common than you think, though. I don't, maybe it's just an
wow.
Aussie thing.
Maybe there's like an equivalent, just I haven't heard it called that. But um, I have heard, obviously there are different setups with regards to finances, and people keep their personal accounts. And sometimes you've heard stories about like people having debt and then they find it out later, or
Yes. Yeah.
things like that. So yeah, I've heard all sorts of things in my client conversations, and it is particularly difficult if there's one partner that really wants to change and then the other one really doesn't. That's a really tough situation to overcome. And
Yeah.
if they're unmarried, then it's, they can move forward with whatever they want to do. But if they're married and they're not on the same page, that's a really tough situation to overcome.
It is, isn't it? Because I think you see, if you think about intimate relationships, so many of them break down because of financial reasons. And it's that stress that that puts on the household, whether it's perception. I mean, obviously there's a reality. Hey, we've only got X dollars in the account and our mortgage is this, and we don't have enough income coming in. But then there is that lifestyle thing, like you said. It's like, well, yes, we can pay the mortgage off earlier. We can get out of maybe any challenges, pay down our credit cards, all that kind of stuff. We can do that, but it's going to mean that you can't have X anymore and you can't have Y, and you're not going to be able to get the brand new iPhone every single year. You don't need to drive the $100,000 motor vehicle when you can drive a $20,000 used car that's
Mhm.
reliable. But some people are, well, no, I'm not doing that. I just don't want to do that. And that becomes very, very challenging, doesn't it? So
Mhm.
in your coaching with that, because I'm sure along your coaching lines, you think, man, I should be a relationship coach as well, because yeah, if you
There is
certainly
for sure a relationship component that comes up.
yeah, certainly if you're coaching both of them and you think, wow, you can see that
Mhm.
you guys are just butting heads here. You're not on the same page. So now let's step into relationship mode. What are those things that how do you have those really tough conversations early on in a relationship to know that you do have the same type of money mindset and the same sort of like wealth creation goals and that kind of thing?
I'm not sure. I've only been, with my husband. So, my husband's the only person I've married. So, I was lucky in that when I met my husband, we were friends for a long time. I saw him in other relationships. I saw how he grew up and like worked three jobs. So I think I just automatically knew the kind of person that he was. Like he's willing to work and willing to
Mm,
he's a very frugal person, like very logical. I think that when I talk to people about misalignments with their partners, I think you have to understand what makes people tick and like what their underlying motivators are. And I talk a lot with couples about money triggers, what I call money triggers. And it's very similar to like, oh, what's your eating triggers, right? Like, okay, is it boredom? Is it, what causes you to eat too much? It's the same thing with money. What causes you to spend too much? And I'll tease out like whether it's oh, like I want safety for my family, so they kind of overspend on certain things, or I want luxury, or I want novelty, or I want whatever it is, like I try to reframe that behavior. That's the second step of my Arya money model. I try to like reframe that. So if they say they have this $50,000 car because they want their family to be secure, I push on that, like, okay, are you you like love that car, or is it you want a secure car? Because I'm sure that you can find a safe car for your family that's half the cost.
mm,
So I really push on these like these underlying assumptions that people take for granted, and try to also make them see what trades they're making. So I'm like, okay, like you can choose that, but here's what you're trading. You're going to be working an extra 5 years. You're going to
Mm.
be paying off your debt 3 times as slow. Like, is that the trade that you want to make? Because that is mathematically the trade you're making. And so, yeah, I'm trying to identify what it is underlying that makes them tick so that I can reframe that thought and offer like a healthier, positive behavior.
How do you go with that? Are you always able to convince someone to make the change?
Sometimes if they are really they're passionate about something and that's a trade they're willing to make, like I don't have any, that's their life.
Yeah,
Like they can
they're
make
either
those
going to do it or
trades.
not. Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to do it or not, or they're going to choose that trade or not. I can't do it for them. And, if I'm like giving constant ideas and I'm trying to expand their mind and they're just not having any of it, like they may not be a fit for being a client. They may not be ready, like if you come to me and you want to see a change, but you're not willing to change any variables, like I don't think this is going to work. So like any amount of coaching is not going to work if you don't do the implementation.
You're
And I
not.
can meet with you every week and try to hold you accountable, but if you're not doing it, then it's like I can't help, change anything.
Yeah. Yeah. And so for you personally, obviously you've got these great habits yourself. Um, you're obviously in a different phase of life to me. I'm 58 this year, and at this stage of life, are you like I just live by myself now. So my girls are in different places, and I'm in a decluttering stage of my life. I live in a very big house, which suits my needs for now. But at some point, you downsize, and your financial life looks very very different. With the stage that you're in, how far out have you mapped what it is that you want to achieve, and I suppose exponentially growing the habits that you've already got, and this is exciting, exciting times, right? So, what's your
Yeah.
approach?
Yeah, so I'm at an interesting point in life. My husband is active duty military, and so we move every few years. So I am also in a decluttering phase this year, Rob, because we are being restationed and moving again. So
Well,
every
you've
few
got
years
nothing on the
I'm
walls behind you, so you're off to a good start.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I kind of am that way to begin with and try not to accumulate and like too much because then you're just gonna have to pack it and move it.
Mm.
So I'm pretty minimalist in that way. And and that's constantly on my mind. So from the start of the story in my book, that 2017 when I graduated, the 3 years after that, I paid off the debt. And in the 5 years since, now 6 years, with 2026, we have, done a lot as far as accumulating and increasing our net worth and our income. And so now we're at the point where I'm in my late 30s, my husband's in his mid 40s, and I'm at the point where we can kind of like pull off the gas a little bit. And I'm telling my husband, like, you should be doing we should be planning some big bucket list items at this point and kind of being enjoying the fruits of our labor at this point.
Yeah.
Now it's kind of switched over to where we really need to slot in the bucket list stuff so that we can balance the saving and the investing that we've been very disciplined about, but also making sure that we are managing our time and our health and like maximizing that part of our lives.
So that's an interesting point because I mean, when we think about finances and wealth creation, sometimes we can think in silo of ourself. But obviously, you've got a marriage, and really, your wealth. You've got a double wealth creation machine now because you've duplicated yourself. So, hopefully, you make the he doesn't have a runaway account, and you don't have a runaway account, and you're
I
aligned
hope not.
with your wealth creation goals. But interesting question here, given that you said he's in active military. How does that next move for him look like, and how do like you navigate that? Because like part of your journey is, I'm sure, at some point, holy crap, do we have to move again? And
Mm.
what that next step is, and like going from active duty to a, I don't know, I'll just say a more sedentary style of life, like the impact on the mindset for him and everything. So how do you navigate that, and when's that time to flick that lever and everything, because it's just what's right for you guys and not.
We've been talking about this a lot, actually. Like I don't know why, but I've been kind of planning in like 10-year forecasts. Maybe because we do move every few years, so it's natural to think that way. So I do suspect there will be one to two more moves, but after that, we are on track for retiring early. And like one of the things that I want to make sure that we're positioned for is that gap in between, and I'm not sure like exactly how it is in Australia, but the gap between retirement, like retirement from your regular career, and then before Social Security in America kicks in.
Yeah.
So making sure that that gap is accounted for and like planned for. And also in between, like figuring out where do we want to live long term, and
Yeah.
yeah, and like what that's a very difficult transition for military personnel. And I'm, a veteran myself. That's a tricky to go from that career to, okay, what do I do with my life? And I'm still pretty young. So making sure that we understand clearly, like what are the hobbies, like what do we want our lifestyle to be like? We're already thinking about that because to plan for that gap, like whatever investments are going to take us through, need to have already been in place.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think with that, I mean, money is great, right? When you've got it, you have that freedom and you've got it. It doesn't solve every problem by any means, but it gives you more flexibility to do other things. And I think with I mean, we talk about retiring. A lot of people, like a typical approach here for a lot of people's thinking in Australia is, and it's 60 when you can access your superannuation. You can't access it
Mm.
before that. Many keep working up until say 65, but I don't think I'll ever stop working. Just love it too much.
Hmm.
But their idea of retirement is essentially, oh, I'm just going to play golf and drink and go out and do all that kind of stuff. But those people normally have a steeper decline
Mm.
down to the end. I think you've got to continue to add value. That's the thing. You can retire from, say, like the military, but it's like, okay, where are you going to continue to add value to people? You
Hmm.
said you said you're what? You're in your late 30s. You look like you're in your 20s. So you, I'm sure you've got a lot
Thanks.
of youthful energy where you can add so much more value. And having a sort of business that you do, you can do it just like I do. You can do it all around the world, right? You don't
Hmm.
have to be in any, so the location really doesn't matter. But I think the hardest thing for people, I don't know what you notice, but I noticed that most people don't love what it is that they do. They they earn the money to pay the bills and get through to the weekend to hopefully distract themselves enough to forget the pain that they just went through to then go back and start 2 days later and do it all
Hmm.
again. So man, I'm just looking forward to my next holiday. But when you find your passion, what you love doing, then it really doesn't matter, does it? You never work a day in your life. And I think
Hmm.
that's the challenge, I think, to get people to find what it is that they're really looking for. And then
Absolutely.
the wealth comes, and because you're loving what you're doing, and it comes that way. But anyway, that's my thinking on it. But what's your perspective? I don't know whether it's a cultural thing here. I think people are becoming lazier and lazier and not pushing themselves as much as they could, and just expecting that someone will pick up the pieces for them. Oh, the government's always there, but the government doesn't pay you much. But if that's what you're looking for,
Yeah,
I think we can set the bar a bit higher.
absolutely. Yeah, my father, he passed away a few years ago and he was like quite young. He was 61. And that really like it was COVID and then my father died. Like those two things like really
Yeah, sure.
I've already like my whole life I was doing many things. So that was never an issue for me, but that like lit a fire even more to like, oh my gosh, I really need to like maximize because you never know what time you have. So yeah, I've been doing a lot of soul searching in the last 5 years of okay, after if I want to transition from a corporate career, like I love to help others, I love serving others, like how can I make my life be filled with beauty and music and service? Like, how can
Mm,
I lean into those things and feel like renewed every day because I'm offering, like you said, lots of value to people.
mm. Yeah, beautiful. I know that as we close out here, you've got a 90-day program. This might be a nice lead into that. If people are being inspired by this to start making some financial changes, um, what are some high points we could say to people over the next 90 days? These are some easy wins for you to start making progress.
Yeah, so my 90-day reset course and coaching program, the, headline is pay off $1,000 of debt, save $1,000, and invest $1,000. Like that is what I'm leading with. We're going to go A to Z, looking at your finances, getting a clear picture of where you are today and where do you want to progress in your financial life. And let's get you oriented toward that. And let's get all of your systems set up. And part of my coaching program that I love is the implementation portion as well.
Yeah, nice. And do you coach people all around the world or just in the US or
As long as I can speak to them, if they're
English
English
speaking?
speakers, then yes, we can do coaching.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I'm going to ask you one more question in a second, but we are going to put the link to that program below in the comments here so people can get in touch with you. You're on Facebook as well. Do you want to I'll put that in the link as well. But if people do want to reach out to you straight away, what's the best way?
So my website is makingmoneyissimple.com, and all of my social media is at Making Money is Simple as well.
Fantastic. Well, I mean, this has been really great. I just wish that globally we would teach our kids this. Unfortunately, I think parents are becoming more and more poorer in the money mindset side of things. And like you said, just saying, oh, I've got a 30-year mortgage, so I'll pay it off in 30 years. It's like that's crazy thinking. But if you don't know any different, how do you know any different? So I think this has probably inspired a lot of people to think about their own situation and do it differently and do it quicker. So please reach out to Veronica. Thank you so much for today, Veronica. I'm going to give you the closing word. What would you say is the greatest advice that you've ever received?
I'm going to go back to it's not maybe a piece of advice, but that mindset shift that I had working for that company in that it's like don't think that anything is beyond possibility. It's just a matter of who can you who can you like learn from to help you get there. So the
Yeah,
who not how kind of thing.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, if you never know, then find somebody that does know and learn from them. Yeah, great advice.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for Veronica. It's been lovely speaking with you.
Thank you for having me, Rob.